Okay, YouTube, look what we have here. We've gotten to a point now where I went ahead and I welded everything up, and I ground down the welds. As you can see here, I'll get a close-up. Ground them down, and I clamped up. I put a piece of steel tubing right across the top, clamped it to the top, brought these guys all the way up, drilled a hole right through it, stuck in my cotter pin, and guess what? We've got a functioning table. As you can see, the miter saw is on there. The extensions are out, and they are supporting a workpiece now. Okay, just to give a little update, I've actually put these bars, these stabilizing bars across. The problem we were having, and I'm referring to this bar here, this bar in this center section right here. The problem we were having is that these the legs, because they were just hanging out there on the bottom by themselves, they had warped a little bit with the heat of the welding process, which is totally natural. So what I need to have are legs that are perfect 90 degrees straight up and down. That way this table will be solid. So in order to do that, I needed to put in these braces here that would pretty much straighten everything out and make this table solid as a rock. Which now brings me to the next phase. We're going to, obviously the tabletop has been turned upside down, and this is one of the table legs here. What I have on top is a little small piece of steel stock that I cut. It's roughly about a 10 gauge piece of steel, and I have cut it to the measurement of the bottom of this 1.5 inch tubing. This piece of steel that is on top here is slightly smaller than the outside diameter of the square tubing. The reason for that is because when we weld this up, we want to do essentially like an outside corner weld, where we have a little bit of area here to lay the weld bead in. That way we have a good adhesion between this piece of metal, which is the tubing, and the actual cap. Okay, I want to bring your attention to this particular leg. If you notice, there's a piece of angled steel here. Now what this is a jig that I made up, and I want to explain it to you and the reason why. Basically what this is it's a piece of 10 gauge steel, like a coupon, that's been bent at a perfect 90 degree angle. Okay? The reason why I did this is because this end here is higher than this end. Obviously I had a little problem with my cut. So we have a slope going from here to here. It's angled down. Okay? This is shorter, this is taller. The problem is that it's already attached to the table. It was an oversight. I attached it, I didn't realize it was like that until it was too late. These things happen. So the question is, how do we get out of this mess? Okay. Well, it just so happens that this particular edge here, the high edge, is exactly the height it needs to be. So the deficit is here. We just basically need to lay down our piece of metal so that rather than being flush with all sides, it's slightly raised back on this side. That way we can just fill this in with our weld, our filler metal, and we'll have a perfectly flat 90 degree bottom. But how do we achieve this? Well, I came up with this. This is this little angle along with a rare earth magnet, 2 rare earth magnets. Here's another one here, here's this one here. I went ahead and placed the magnet underneath the angle here. As you can see, these things are really tough too, so it's kind of hard to put it in place. And then what I did is I put the other magnet here. So now what I can do is lay my metal roughly where it needs to be. It's a little bit of a hangover. Place this guy in place, bring it down, and lo and behold, once this jig is set up, you can see very clearly how the angle is now perfect. The top piece is where it should be. This top piece here is across at a 90 degree. And you can see the gap here in this little section right here between the tubing and the actual end piece here. There's a bit of a gap here, but we'll be able to handle that no problem with our MIG welding and fill it all in. And then, thanks to this jig, we'll have this at a perfectly flush 90 degrees to the tubing. Alright, so without any further, I'll go ahead and tack this up. There we go, it's tacked up, so now I can remove my jig. Now if you notice, I didn't cut this, and the reason why is because I needed the back surface over here, and I didn't really want to fiddle around with having to play with a little tiny piece here. The extra length gave me some stability here so that I could lay it on the back properly. Now that it's in here, I'll just take a regular cutoff wheel and just cut it right down the top. Make sure here, verify. Ah, that's perfect. That is right on right there. Let's see. Yeah, that's right on the money. So now that that one's good, I'm going to go ahead and tack this other side. Right on. Okay, right on. Now, all I have to do is cut that off and fill it in. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off now. It's going to be quite loud, so I'll probably edit out the sound. But here goes. Okay, there we go. Unfortunately, we cut out most of the tack weld on this side, but we can just go ahead and re-tack it. But if you'll take a look at that, we've got it perfect gap on it. Okay, and there's the other side where this is the side that I actually just cut off here with the cutoff wheel. And you can see that looks really, really good. I'm going to go ahead and take my measuring device again, put it up here, my little jig, and it's still at a 90. So we're looking pretty good here. Yep, flush up there. So this is going to work out really well. So let's go ahead and do a quick little weld here and fill this out. Keep in mind I'm going to grind this down a little bit probably, so if it builds up a lot like it did on this one, no big deal. Since this last weld will be on the other side of the camera, I won't shield it, and then I'll be able to show you the final weld. Okay, and as you noticed, let me shut off the machine real quick so that you can hear me a little better. If you noticed, I just did a straight line on these. I didn't bother with any zigzags or circles or cursive E's or anything. Okay, so the next thing to deal with here is going to be the casters. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on these casters here. If you'll notice, this design was taken from our friends over at Welding Tips and Tricks, and the table that Jody made over there. Not pulling any punches on that one. I want to give him full credit for this. I love the design. So as always, we're going to start by putting some tack welds in here into place. I'll go ahead and take care of that now. Okay, here's the other side. I'll go ahead and tack that one in place as well. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and weld this other side up. We'll go nice and slow and take our time. Now we'll come over to the other side here. Excuse the camera jitter. And weld the top side of this one. Once again, we'll do a downhill weld here, and I'll try to angle the gun so that you guys can see it at home. By the way, one of the things I wanted to point out, which is a little different from the design that I mentioned this was inspired from, is that rather than welding the casters directly to this piece of tubing, I actually welded it to this plate here. And my reasons for doing this are a couple fold. Number one, you know, these casters here are plated in zinc. They are galvanized, and galvanized contains zinc, and for those of you who are not aware, zinc is very, very hazardous to our health. So I hate having to weld on this stuff. I hate having to sand it off. I hate dealing with it, period. It's just a really nasty stuff. Look up zinc fever on Google if you want to know just how nasty. It can really hurt you badly. So rather than even dealing with that, and because I don't like to lock myself into a decision of, you know, where I can't get out of it easily. For example, what happens if this caster goes bad? Let's say I run over some hot metal and melt the wheel because it's made out of a plastic. Well, now I would have to cut the thing out and re-weld it. Kind of a pain. Here, thanks to this plate with the holes, all I have to do is just unscrew it, take it off, and put another one in. It's a nice option to have, so that's why I opted for this. Well, YouTube, there it is so far with the casters. Little kick of the foot, and there you go. Roll it into position, put it wherever you like, foot back on, ease it down. Okay, so here's my outdoor setup. I've gone ahead and applied some primer to the parts. I'll get a little close up here so you can see, but nothing too crazy or special here, just some gray primer. And next will be paint. Well, here it is, the final product. I'm real happy with the way it turned out. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to build one for yourself, I'm going to be putting a detailed drawing on weldfever.com real soon. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button at the end, and make sure you subscribe so you can see my new and upcoming videos. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.